everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Episode 71 of the Sean Lowery Show, and we're in this new era with my boy David Hecker. What's up, bro?
What's going on, dude? Happy to be back. Week number 2. I didn't know if you'd have me back.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, but that's why I committed from the beginning to make sure that we do 10 episodes together, because I knew you'd probably let me down in episode 1, but it's okay.
Can only go up from here.
Yeah,
right?
You'll do better this time for sure.
I love it.
Yeah, we're doing the same format. We got 5 questions and things that we semi-researched, and then we got Brandon's big bites, and I am excited because I'm ready to have some fun. All right, Brandon, number 1.
Question number 1. The American people feel that we're going into another lockdown. With Biden elected, how would you feel with another quarantine?
It's happening, man. I don't know about, you're in the South and things are obviously a lot different, but it's happening today in Philly.
Why are
But it's
things
really weird.
Why are things different in the South? I'm not disagreeing.
Culturally thing, political.
Yeah.
Like people care. I don't know, but here's the weird thing. It's like in Philly on City Avenue, there's a restaurant on the left side that's in Philadelphia that has to close, can't do dine-in service at all until the new year, until January 1st. And across the street in what's considered Lower Marion, there's no restrictions at all. So Longhorn Steakhouse is going to keep operating, and the other one has to close down for a month. It's so arbitrary. It doesn't make any sense. But I'm okay with it. Granted, my wife works in healthcare, but like the big thing there is like, I understand everyone wants to have the freedom of choice, but if you give people the freedom to choose, then they're going to go to bar. Kids are going to go to bars, people are going to go to restaurants, whatever. And make your own choice. If you're at high risk, stay home. That's all great. But the people that don't are going to start flooding hospitals, and it's not really fair. Like that's not really what these people signed up for. So I see it both ways.
Your life has been affected because you are working
time
from home. My life has literally not been affected at all, except for that I have to wear a mask to the grocery store. That's it.
Right. Which is a big deal to some people, not me. But not only have I worked from home, I have a baby who's like doesn't have an immune system, so we've been like extra careful. And my wife works in the hospital, so it really impacted me. But it's
your wife working from the hospital. Okay. Your wife working from the hospital definitely gives a new light to it that not the average person has. I'm sure the perspective from there is very important. The hospitals are very important. And yeah, you didn't come to my wedding, and you were gonna be one of my groomsmen, and gonna be the what's it called? The chaplain?
Officiant.
The officiant.
The ordained minister, the officiant.
Yeah, my spiritual advisor.
Spiritual advisor. Yeah.
And you did send me a very good, maybe we can play it on the podcast one day. You sent me what you would have said, and it was awesome. And I was sad you didn't come. It was so much fun.
Me too.
But yeah, obviously, if I hated you,
and that was just the baby.
From that, I wouldn't have you on the podcast. Right. And it was just the baby. I understand that. And honestly, for the people who didn't come to my wedding, we were going to have about 150 people. And we had about half. And the wedding was amazing. Couldn't have gone better. No one got COVID. For the people who didn't come, it was people. Everyone with kids didn't really come. And the other people were like Democrats or like people who were really, really like into the political element of it. And then the other people were people who had rules at their work, that worked at like a public place, like a hospital or someone that had rules about you have to quarantine for 2 weeks if you go to the state, and they couldn't really hide it if they came because it would have been pictures and everything.
Yeah, but
so those are the people that didn't come.
My question there. Yeah. My question there is like, who's like going to be checking? You know what I mean? Like if I totally respect that decision, but it's so hard to enforce. Like your job says you can't go to Kentucky.
Well, they're going to know you went because it's a wedding and there are going to be pictures and you're going to be talking about it. Like actually Shelby's dad, he went to the wedding.
Okay, Shelby's dad. Sure.
But he took his 2 weeks. He took his 2 weeks because that was the rule. And then he actually came down once for a weekend to drop off Shelby's sister and like didn't really say. The fact that it's a wedding, you can't like hide that you went. You could hide it on another time if you came on another weekend
vacation
or something like that. Yeah.
Like
you came down
my buddy
and
Lee
didn't say anything. What about Lee Berry?
He had a vacation planned in North Carolina at the Outer Banks, and his boss and company had the same policy. That was one of the states where if you travel there, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, and he didn't have enough PTO, so he didn't go. And I asked, like, why not just tell them that you went to the Poconos? Like, how would they know?
I mean, he would post that he would be excited about vacation. He would post about it on social media. Probably he would want to come back and talk about it. Like you'd have to, you could pull it off easily, but you'd have to hide it completely. And that kind of ruins the fun of the vacation.
And he doesn't work in a hospital. So like, I'm not advocating for people that work in a hospital that could get other people sick to do that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I just don't get how it's enforceable. But
It's funny how it's really political, but I'm actually not that surprised. Like I'm center rightish. I'm a tough guy. I kind of am. Like I have my company. Like I think, I'm all like work hard, like no excuses type of guy. Like I get other people are like center left or a little different, maybe like you, but like I'm not fucking scared of the air. And then the argument against that for someone else would be like, okay, you probably aren't going to get it. You work out every day. You're young. You're healthy, but you're going to kill a grandmom or something. And now I will say I have not been in an intimate room with an old person in 5 years. All four of my grandparents are gone. The only time I would see an old person would be at the grocery store, in which case I would have the mask on and be social distance. So like, I don't feel like I'm causing any harm. But what if I give it to somebody who at my work who's going to give it to their grandma? Like, just shut up. I mean,
that's like a totally legitimate argument though. You see that, right? That's how it works. It's not
then it comes back to the social responsibility part. Like,
right.
And that's what I believe in the most. It's just like everyone should be able to make their own decisions. And it is funny how, because my mom talks about this, like the rules in Pennsylvania and Philly, and of course New York and LA, like they're more democratic areas. And I swear, since I've moved down here and have gone back, when I go back, even before COVID, I feel the difference and I just feel it. I don't know if it's in my head or it's my experiences.
What's the difference?
I feel the difference in like it's more governed in Pennsylvania than it is in South Carolina. Just everything. Like I feel more scared of a police officer with lights behind me there than I do here. I've got pulled over just as many times here as I got pulled over there. There's just something about it that feels more governed there. I don't know if it's because I remember getting in trouble in high school, but it's true though. It is more governed. It is more governed.
I mean, even like state liquor stores.
Yeah,
like that, you know what I mean. That's
yes.
And like until very recently, you could only buy alcohol in alcohol stores, beer stores, or liquor distributors. You couldn't do like you couldn't go to the market and grab a six
silly.
pack.
I remember one of the first things when I moved to South Carolina, Charleston, was my favorite thing was I could go into a gas station, grab a six pack. I'm a borderline alcoholic, so that was great for me.
Yeah, you grabbed 4 or 5, but it's true. And even like you hear about it a lot, but people saying like things move a little bit slower. Like if you're in line for a gas station, when I went to Myrtle Beach for my buddy's bachelor party, we were in line in North Carolina at a gas station, middle of nowhere. And the person in front of us was just having like small talk, chit chat with the cashier. And we were like, we were all losing our mind. We're like, what are you doing? Yeah. We have places to be. Let's go. It's just, I think that there's a difference there, but
I ask every single person who comes to visit, do you feel it being slower? Now, actually later, I know what our topics are later and I have something on this that I just connected, but I always say I don't feel the difference, but I think it's because I probably live in my own little world and like my company, my 17 employees, I set the culture and like everyone's hardworking. I don't necessarily notice that, but yes, I do feel the difference in the aura of the governance between the two places. And then when it comes to COVID, I mean, and then the media always tries to make it like a red state, blue state thing versus how many cases there are. And it's not, there's been blue states where it pops up. There's been red states where it pops up. I mean, I understand the logic. I understand the rules. And for a governor or somebody, they have to do something. And especially if that's what their voters and their constituents want. I get it, but it's just become... It's
a lot. And I think everyone's at the point where you're just like over it. It's like,
of course, yeah,
7, 8, 9 months, whatever it's been. It's like, oh my God, but it's not really how it works. And I get your point about blue states have had it and red states have had it. Like the timeline's different. Blue states got it first because that's where more
people are.
Big cities are blue, right?
Big cities are always blue.
And then they got it. I mean, look at New York. Say what you will about the governor, but he has done a decent job mitigating that. I mean, it's one of the most populous states in the country, and their numbers are pretty good. But Everyone said this
so
was going to happen.
What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
I am going to my mother-in-law's with
Is there going to be more?
me, my
Is there going to be more than 3 households?
No,
Okay.
actually.
Like, is that the rules?
There's going to be 3.
Is that the rules?
I thought it was like
All
number
right.
of people. I don't know.
So I have this pulled up right now because I did a little research for the podcast, and this is. I wish I probably would have made more sense to pull up Pennsylvania rules, but these are funnier. I pulled up the California rules for mandatory requirements for Thanksgiving. So no more than 3. So I'm looking at it right now on the website, cdph.ca.gov. No more than 3 households are prohibited. You must gather outdoors. Gather. Okay. Don't attend gatherings if you feel sick. Okay. Practice distancing and hygiene at gatherings. Okay. Here's the best one. Wear a face covering. When gathering, face coverings must be worn. People at gatherings may remove their face coverings briefly to eat or drink, as long as they stay 6 feet away from everyone, and put their face covering back on as soon as they are done with the activity. That's what it says. So you have to take a bite of food, put the mask on, take another bite of food. Now listen to this. Gathering should be 2 hours or less. So not quite a Thanksgiving. Singing, chanting, shouting, and physical exertion significantly increase it. All people who are singing and chanting should wear a face covering. People who are singing or chanting are strongly encouraged to do so quietly at a below the volume of a normal speaking voice. Instrumental music is allowed as long as the musicians maintain a 6-foot social distancing. These are so silly, dude. That's so silly. All right, so singing, chanting is not allowed. People are singing and chanting should maintain a physical distance, and they are strongly encouraged to be quiet. Instrumental music is allowed as long as musicians maintain a 6-foot physical distance. Singing and chanting at Thanksgiving, they're not able to be. It's not able to be enforced, of course, right?
Right, but at least they're letting us chant. Like, granted, yes, it has to be an appropriate volume, and
turkey.
Let's be respectful here. But that begs the question: if you can't chant and sing as a group during Thanksgiving, is it even Thanksgiving? What are we doing? Let's just move right into Christmas.
Yeah,
I have a birthday on Black Friday, so this actually affects me a little bit.
Right.
So I don't love that, but acoustic, play the instrumental. I'll be fine.
Okay.
Everyone knows the words, so just think them. But
it's beautiful. Yeah, maybe we can do.
It's crazy. Chant. Like, stuff like that's crazy. So obviously those rules are crazy, but just as crazy is the outrage over them. Because, come on, it's who's gonna get upset about this? Obviously they're ridiculous fairy tale rules, but nobody's gonna follow the chanting rules.
Like, so if I had to pick which one was crazier, the outrage over the rules or the rules, dude, I might pick the rules. But my personal thing is I don't give a fuck what the rules are.
Right.
So I don't really care.
That's what I mean. This is different than masks at stores and shutdowns, obviously. But this is what I think is good. Like, let the people figure it out themselves. They're not going to enforce this.
What do you think about the argument that this is like the government trying to control people and stuff like that?
I don't agree with that. I guess like they're trying to control people because they're trying to control the virus. Like, I choose to listen to the medical experts versus like Joe whatever.
I hate that. I hate when people say that. Like,
why?
It's just
they're like trained medical experts.
It's like a political talking point.
But it's not. I mean, it's just a talking point because it's doctors, people that study infectious disease like their entire lives are the ones that say this is what you should do to mitigate the risk, and people are like, that's stepping on my freedom. Okay. But then it's gonna be an issue for a lot longer if people don't cooperate.
Remember last week we talked about how it had a positive effect on the Democrats in the election, the whole COVID thing. Mm-hmm. Now, a good argument against that would be these were the rules before, the election's over, Biden won, and now we're still putting these rules in place. See, it wasn't about politics. It's actually a fair point.
What about like globally? Like the people that say that this is like a thing that the U.S. government has created. So then why is the entire world doing it?
Who says that?
A lot of people say that. You haven't heard that? Come on.
I know it started in China. Damn Chinese. I don't know why I said that in that accent, but
China.
Yeah, fucking China. Fucking China.
No, It does. It does. The last thing I'll say. I mean, it sucks to see like restaurants are going to have a hard time recovering. I did see one restaurant owner that I follow say like the shutdown did not destroy my business. COVID did. So whatever we can do to get over COVID, let's do it so that we don't have to do this again in February. You know what I mean?
Like I swear, like when I hear that, I think that guy's a political angle. Like, and I understand that.
Maybe he
Also,
does.
I can think about him not having that, but it sounds like he has a political angle just with that phrasing, you
But
know?
why would his? I think that you're just thinking of it politically. But like, why would
Yeah,
this guy who's a
maybe.
business owner have a political angle that hurts? You know, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
It
But
sucks. It sucks for everyone.
yeah, and I enjoy the conversation. For my life, it has not affected me at all. I haven't had to shut down my business. I'm going to Thanksgiving. Actually, my aunt in Pennsylvania is not having Thanksgiving. My aunt in Virginia Beach is having it instead. But not as many people are going. It's not really affected my life at all, so I don't really have a lot to complain about. And I understand both sides.
Yeah.
And I'm not scared of the air, personally, of course.
Do you ever see The Happening?
Yes. Yes, I love that. I actually love
Mm-hmm.
that movie.
I know you do. It's like the worst movie of all time. One day we'll have to talk about your taste in movies, but that's a bigger discussion.
All right, Brandon. Numero dos.
Question number 2. Harden wants to go to the Nets to form a super team with Kyrie and Durant. Let's talk about super teams and how that taints your legacy.
Yeah.
All right.
Have you heard about this?
Why don't you set me up?
So James Harden obviously plays in Houston. Last year, he orchestrated this big moving pieces where they traded Chris Paul to Oklahoma City for Russell Westbrook, and they had a okay year, COVID, whatever. But after 1 year, both of them, Westbrook and Harden, are demanding trades. Harden is specifically saying, "Trade me to Brooklyn, to the Nets, so he can play with Kevin Durant and Kyrie." I mean, you know how I feel about the NBA, and it all comes back to Mr. James, in my opinion, like forming these super teams and choosing to do so. So here's my question to you: if you were, say, you played for Houston, you were a teammate of James Harden, like how would you feel about this? Say he doesn't get traded and he comes back and he's like, dude, you just spent the entire offseason demanding to be traded to these guys because you can't do it on your own.
All
Right? Is that the like what's the argument
Yeah,
against that?
I'll answer your question. Let me first say the audience doesn't know that you hate LeBron James, so you can't say
Sure.
so you got to tell them.
Well,
And go ahead.
I mentioned last week I'm not a huge NBA fan, but specifically LeBron. I'm sure
Yeah,
we'll
you
talk
hate
about it at length one time.
Yeah. And the second thing I'll say is I never really talked about sports on this podcast, and I am a huge sports fan. I love sports, and I used to be a bigger sports fan than I am now. Mostly, I watch like the highlights, and I play fantasy football, and I love the NBA. The NBA is my favorite league. And to answer your question about James Harden and demanding the trade, and if it doesn't go through and having to play with his teammates, one thing that's great about sports is you just play. Like I actually thought about that before. Like chemistry is important, but like I think that can they'll get over it. They'll get over the fact that he demanded a trade. It happens. It's happened before. It'll happen again. As far as chemistry goes, he already has the ball all the time. I think they'll get over that.
What if you were like on the verge of a contract year? Say you have 1 year left on your deal, and if Harden gets shipped out of town, you're going to be under 500. You're probably not going to have a great year yourself, as opposed to being on a great team having a great year.
Then you can be one of the leaders on the team and earn yourself a better contract.
Yeah, on a shitty team, though.
I mean, that's usually where a lot of free agents get picked up from is like players who are on bad teams who are pretty good and they not as well known, so the teams can get a good deal for them. Whatever.
You don't want a
Super
good
team.
deal. Yeah.
I mean, you want them.
As a player, you don't want a team to have a good deal for you. You want to get paid. So if you're
That's what
a
I mean.
starter on a
Right.
Western Conference Finals team, you're going to get paid way better than a starter on a team that's.
Let me
20
first say the worst trade in NBA history was Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook. Dude, Chris Paul is so good. And they took the Warriors the year that Kawhi Leonard won and the Raptors. They took the Warriors to Game 7, and Chris Paul missed Game 7 because he got hurt. And then watching Chris Paul with the Thunder last playoffs, I loved the COVID basketball because I was so excited for sports. I'm a big NBA playoff fan. I fell in love with Chris Paul last year. Obviously, he's been in the league for a long time. I fell in love with Chris Paul this playoffs. I don't know why. I thought he was amazing, and they made a good run. He was so clutch. I mean, I always knew he was good. They traded him for Russell Westbrook, who is a team destroyer. He is a amazing guy. I love his energy. He's almost like Kobe, but not. Like, he's got that like tunnel vision, and he's insanely intense. But he ruins every team he's ever been on. So that was the worst trade ever. And I don't blame either of them for wanting to trade. That's super awkward if they don't get traded and they have to play. But like I said, they'll play through it. It's professional business. Super teams in general, though, I mean, I don't have a favorite NBA team. And we've talked about LeBron in the past, not on the podcast. You don't like him. I understand all your points for not liking him. I just like him. I'm attracted to greatness. And I love watching LeBron. I love when teams are great and it's exciting. So I'm all for super teams. I think it'd be sweet if Harden went to the Nets.
There's no parity. That's one of the things I hate about the NBA is
the Raptors won 2 years ago.
Yeah, to a completely depleted Golden State Warriors team, and they had the best player in the league at that point. And Siakam's a beast, Lowry's a beast. But if everyone is healthy, if everyone's healthy, then they don't stand a chance. They get blown out. But their two best players were hurt.
Yeah. And Klay Thompson's hurt again.
Yeah, poor guy.
Dude, that sucks.
That sucks. I know.
Like, if I tore my fucking ACL, I could still do my job. Like,
if you were, say you owned an NBA team, how would you feel about like your star player? And this is a completely extreme example, but your star player, if they were like skydiving on a weekly basis or skiing all the time, would you have a problem with it? They say that's how Andrew Luck hurt his shoulder, was in a snowboarding accident, and like they covered up really well. But
yeah, I'd have a problem with it.
Yeah, so obviously this is pickup basketball. It's totally different, but you want to keep these guys in a bubble. And now Golden State, like, what do they do? Do they go for it again, or do they rest? I don't know.
Injuries suck. Injuries suck so bad. I hate them in sports. I wish you could just like play like an NBA Live and turn off fatigue and turn off injuries. Mm-hmm. That's the way to go. But it sucks for him, man. I mean, there's nothing else to say. Yeah. It sucks for him, and whatever.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
I like super teams because it's fun for me as a watcher.
Yeah, not me. Maybe in the playoffs, but don't you miss at all where there was like 6 teams that were all competing, all fighting? You had like the Sixers with AI, for instance. Like, this dude was a warrior, and he went up against the Raptors and Vince Carter, and it was or the Bucks and Ray Allen.
Yeah,
Paul Pierce and the Celtics, and it was like all these teams were super competitive. Everyone hated each other. Now everyone's like, playing tummy sticks with each other, and they're all best friends, and they all go on banana boats together in the off season. And then they get together, and rather than through trades or whatever, they're like, oh, let's go. We can't beat the Spurs, so let's all sign in Miami and we'll do it, and we'll win 4 or 5 or 6. I mean, you won 2. So get over yourself. You're a joke. If you were a man and you had any cojones, you would have done it yourself, but you can't do it. You never has, never will.
And you're right about LeBron. You're right about LeBron changing it, because if someone else does it, then you can't do it by yourself. So you do need to team up, and then that does create that culture. And I get it. I like the NBA. I think it's fun, and I think anyone could have won this year. I mean, it was a surprise that the Clippers lost. Like, I couldn't predict who was going to win when there was 4 teams left. I thought the Lakers would, but I get your point. There's not as much parity, and I think it's one of the best leagues. But fair points. And
I mean, definitely a top 4 league, in my opinion.
Top 4. That's
fair.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, Brandon. Numero tres.
Question 3. What's a famous person you have a beef with?
You want me to start? No, yeah. I kind of want you to start, but if you really want me to,
it's your podcast, so I'll go.
All right.
So a personal vendetta would be none other than Red Sweater Man himself, Ken Bone. He came at me. He unleashed the Boniacs, the Boneheads, as they call themselves, on me and on Twitter. It was like very beginning of COVID, and he said some dumb joke.
Tell people who Ken Bone is if they don't know.
If you don't know who Ken Bone is, then you've been living under a rock. But he was the guy that the 2016 presidential election, during one of the debates where they give the microphone to a few people to ask questions. I don't even remember what his question was, but he was a viral sensation because he had like a mustache, kind of a dorky looking red sweater, and America fell in love with him. And he was able to stretch that 5 minutes of fame into apparently 5 years because
he was on Bill Maher's show. Like, yeah, he had a good run.
And he still has a bunch of lunatics that love him. So he made some dumb joke about COVID, and I sarcastically said, "Not now, Ken. Come on."
On Twitter?
He goes, "Oh, yeah, on Twitter." And he came back at me, "Oh, get off your high horse." And then all these boneheads started coming at me. And I did like one of the gifts that they sent me, I will say, was like, "Welcome to the Bone Zone." And it was like a picture of Ken Bone. But he sucks. And then the other one that I would say, you know Chrissy Teigen?
Yes.
So she represents like a bigger problem with celebrities, I think, but she's like the most glaring example of somebody who's like, at first it was cute. You know, it's all like I'm self-deprecating or look at me trying to be too ironic and funny on Twitter. And it's just so cringy now. It's so overdone. She's like, she went from being beloved to just overdoing it like 1,000 times. All of her jokes are stupid. She tries way too hard. I can't stand the stuff that she does on Twitter. Can't stand it.
Dude, that's a really good one. I fucking hate Chrissy Teigen.
She's so annoying, dude.
Yeah, I don't even know why.
It's probably because she thinks she's so funny and smart, and it's just, and it sucks because I like John Legend.
I actually don't like him either.
Really? He's very talented.
Of course, he's good at music.
Why don't you? Yeah. Well, you don't like him because he's associated with her, which I'm fine with. But she's like, also Katy Perry has the same effect on me. Like if you asked me in 2012, she would have been like, top 3 celebrities for me. Very quickly fell from grace. Where it's like you're too self-aware, you're trying way too hard, trying to be cute. Jennifer Lawrence kind of was on that path, and she's faded away.
What do you mean when you say they're too cute?
They're just trying to be cute all the time, always trying to be ironic, always trying to like.
The one thing I remember about Katy Perry was that she had like braids, and then people said it was cultural appropriation, and she sat down with a group of people and was like, they were explaining to her why it was cultural appropriation, and she apologized. That's one thing I remember about Katy Perry.
I guess phony is another word, right? They're all always on, and everything that they do or say seems to be like to get a laugh, or to be like, "Oh, look how relatable she is. Oh, she eats chicken wings just like the rest of us." Stop it. Just cut it out. We don't care. We don't want to see it anymore.
Okay. Honestly, I think Chrissy Teigen is a great answer. I really do. All right, so my turn. I don't think you're gonna know mine. But all right, so I have a philosophy on hate. It's I don't hate anyone, but I do have another philosophy on hate. It's that I always like to hate one person just for fun. Like, and also I feel like hate is like, it's okay to hate. Like my whole life, I've always loved everyone, but I've always hated one person. In our fraternity, you probably remember who that one person was. Yep. And shout out to Jersey. I had one guy in the fraternity that I hated, and I liked everyone else. And I like everyone, but I always have some person I hate. Right now, in my current life, the person I hate is this motherfucker at Food Lion. He's at my local Food Lion. He's a cashier, and he goes so fucking slow on purpose. And this is what I said earlier when you mentioned about in the South. I don't notice it, but this one guy, there was the whole supermarket was crowded. Every lane was open. And it was, I forget why it was so crowded. I think it might have been, I forget what it was. But this guy was purposely going slow. I could tell. And I was like, all right, maybe he was having a bad day. Every time I go back to the Food Lion, this is my personal guy that I hate. This isn't my answer to the question, the celebrity I have a beef with.
Right.
But out of my life, that's the person I hate the most. I hate this person the most, this cashier at Food Lion.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Is he like intentionally going slow? Is he old and he can't go any faster?
Either way, I fucking hate him.
But is he like super old? Sounds like this guy's probably super old.
He's in between old and really old. But like, I swear when I watch him that he's doing it to piss everyone off. And it's part of my thing where I like to have one person to hate for fun. Okay.
That's a little bit of power that he has that he's using, but go ahead.
Yeah. He's like, look at me. Everyone look at me. I'm going so slow.
I don't hate that move.
I'm ruining all your days. Yeah. Well, I fucking hate this guy. And every time I see him, I'm like, fuck this guy. All right. But here's my celebrity that I have a beef with that I do not like. Dave Chappelle. I don't think Dave Chappelle is funny. I do not think Dave Chappelle is funny. And everyone thinks, and I have some explanations. Everyone thinks, oh my God, Dave Chappelle, the funniest guy in the world. He's the king of comedy, the king of stand-up. It's like he walks on water and doesn't even have to like prove himself. And everyone just thinks he's so funny. So, all right. So I wasn't obsessed with it. I got a couple of reasons. I wasn't obsessed with the Chappelle Show as a kid. I've seen all the funny bits of the Chappelle Show. Yeah, some of them are funny, but it's just like a racist show. Like, and whatever. The Chappelle Show, okay, that's probably his best thing.
Snowflake.
Yeah, I mean, okay, whatever. It's an incredibly racist show, and whatever. Overrated, I think. So then he did this skit on SNL after Trump got elected, where he was in the living room, and it was like I thought that skit was so awkward, so out of touch, so. Ugh, I hated that skit. So I'm like, okay. And at this point, I still kind of like Dave Chappelle. I just recently noticed that I don't think he's that funny. So then he did that special after the George Floyd situation called 846. And everyone was saying, oh my God, you got to listen to this thing. It really, really is in touch. It's so, you got to listen to Dave Chappelle. He's become like this voice that like everyone has to like respect Dave Chappelle. I listened to it. Not one intellectual argument in it at all. All he says is, "Oh, cops kill black people. It sucks for black people." Like, not one. There was nothing intellectual about it. It was the same as some guy on the street just complaining about shit. I was like, all right, now I'm starting to like hate Dave Chappelle. As far as I don't think he's funny. And then, okay, so I was thinking about this. We had this topic yesterday. I was thinking about this. I was thinking about how I don't like Dave Chappelle that much. And then he was on Joe Rogan yesterday. The title was Joe Rogan with Darnell Rawlings and Dave Chappelle. So I was like, okay, I tomorrow on the podcast, I'm going to talk about how I don't like Dave Chappelle and I don't think he's funny. And I got to listen to this podcast. So I was up printing shirts late last night and it's a 3-hour podcast. Dave Chappelle doesn't come for the last fucking 20 minutes and he comes unprepared with no jokes ready. I mean, I get that the podcast is not stand-up, it's just chilling, but he brought no value to the conversation. It was awkward. I was like, okay, maybe this podcast with Joe Rogan can change my mind. Dave Chappelle's in the title of it, and it made me hate him even more. He showed up at the very end. It was a surprise. It was late. They didn't have enough microphones. It was rude. Part of it is that if he was just someone who wasn't so admired and glorified in the world of comedy, walks on water, Dave Chappelle, I wouldn't hate him as much. But the fact that he does absolutely not live up to those standards. All his jokes are like, I'm black people are hated. Ha ha ha. Isn't that funny? Like, I think he's the most overrated comedian in the world. And even when he was on SNL recently, I started watching his little monologue in the beginning. It's like, okay, one funny thing. It's been like 5. I every time I listen to him, I end up turning it off. He doesn't hold my attention. I don't like Dave Chappelle, and I think he is just so overrated, and I have zero reason to understand why he's this admired, walked on water comedian, and it drives me crazy, and that's my beef. That's my celebrity beef.
I couldn't disagree with what you're saying anymore.
All right, what makes Dave Chappelle
Just about every point. I think he's hilarious. Have you ever watched any of his stand-up specials?
I turn him off, man.
Okay.
I watched the one where he had one funny joke about like abortion, men's choice, woman's choice. I forget the joke, what it was. It was kind of funny, but the whole thing was all right.
Dude, so funny. I mean, what about like back in the day? So I think that what you're saying about Chappelle's show is wrong. I think it's the best sketch comedy show by far that's been on TV.
Key and Peele's so much better.
No
Key and Peele's way better than Chappelle Show.
No
I feel like I feel like everyone just has this nostalgia with the Chappelle Show.
Dude, it's so funny. It's on Netflix. I was watching it the other day. It's so funny. Every and like the racist thing. Come on. I mean, that's so soft of you of all people. Like that's what's funny about it. He's racist against everyone, against white people, against black people, against Asians.
I'm not racist as far
Killing
as
Him Softly is like one of the greatest
stand-up
stand-up specials of all time. So put all that aside, that I think that his specials are hilarious, going way back to his most recent ones. Usually a good mark of a stand-up comedian is like what other comedians say about them and what they think about them.
That's right? One of the reasons I don't like him, because I don't feel like he matches up to that standard. Yes, every comedian says he's the best comedian of all time. All of them. Right. So I feel like everybody hears that. And everybody is obsessed with it, and everyone has this like walk on water vision of him, and me hearing that and thinking, oh, Dave Chappelle. He always lets me down because I have such high expectations for him, and I don't think he's that funny.
At the end of the day, it's like subjective, so I can't convince you that he's funny if you don't think he's funny. But I think that he's very, very, very funny. I don't think that it's like a public perception says so. So let it be. You know, I think.
Do you think? Did you watch the 846 thing?
I did. Yeah.
Did you think it was some type of intellectual commentary on
just-
society?
I don't think that's, but it wasn't supposed. It's not. It's you don't.
Well,
listen to
it
Dan
wasn't
Chappelle for
funny.
it to be, you know,
There was no jokes in
I
it.
think there were jokes in the beginning, but I think it was just like people want to hear his perspective because he has an interesting way of looking at the world, and like he
doesn't have an interesting way of looking at it.
All right, I disagree, and that's kind of what the Chappelle show was like his kind of commentary on society and
society hates black people. I'm black. Isn't that funny? That's just every joke.
Did you watch the Chappelle show? Because that's not what it was.
I will say I didn't watch it as closely as everyone else. Like,
so it sounds to me like you haven't watched a ton. You haven't like taken in a ton of his content. You saw the 847 thing, which was like 20 minutes. You watched the beginning of one of his stand-ups. SNL sucks. It always sucks nowadays. So I don't hold that against him. And that's kind of it. Like make a couple of sketches on.
It's possible I haven't dove deep enough, but
so
for the sake of the podcast, I'm sticking with my point. I'm doubling down. Fuck Dave Chappelle.
All right. Well, we'll watch one together. Me, you, and Nico and I always watch. Like when his specials come out, we always get together and watch them. Really, I think he's hilarious. So,
all right.
I think you're wrong. I would say like factually incorrect.
All right. I agree with you. I agree with you on Chris Teigen.
Okay. Well, you know what? I still disagree. But
all right, that's my fucking hot take. Fuck you, Dave Chappelle. All right.
I love you.
Boom. All right. So before the next segment, I'm actually really excited about this one thing. We have our first advertisement on the show, our first podcast, and it's from I'm sure you've heard this before on many podcasts, but it's the Dollar Shave Club. So I just have a little ad read here. All right. So do you know someone who's been locked down at home for so long that they look like a scruffy dog or a Viking that's on a long trip at sea? This holiday season, get them the gift of Dollar Shave Club. It's the perfect gift for your handsome friends who grew crazy beards in 2020 and look like they lost all the mirrors at their house. Each purchase comes with a set of razors, premier shaving cream, and yes, a mirror. Dollar Shave Club, because you don't need to be rich to look like a standard human being. Looking like a homeless bum isn't necessary with Dollar Shave Club. Use the checkout code Sean Lowery Show for 35 cents off all orders over $500. So that one's for our listeners, and it's the Dollar Shave Club. So go check it out. dollarshaveclub.com/Sean Lowery Show. And yeah, it helps support the podcast, and just go check it out.
There's also one. This is a quick one. It just came in last minute. It's for Big T Testosterone Boost. Do you have a 30-year-old friend who still looks like a 12-year-old pubescent little girl? Well, you can help them too. Sign up now at promo code Hecker to make sure that they can get some tea so they're not a soy boy with low T, with no testosterone, and no facial hair ever. That's promo code Hecker or soy boy.
All right, cool. So
That's
yeah,
pretty good.
it's good. It's good that we're getting sponsorships for the podcast. It's really exciting. So yeah, everyone go support those. All right, Brandon, what's the next topic?
4. What's your favorite social media?
Who starts?
I'll start. My favorite
Let's
social
hear
media is it's Twitter. I love Twitter. Yeah. And I mean, I have probably a little bit of a different relationship with social media than you, because I don't know. I follow you on Twitter and Instagram. You don't post that much. I do. I mean, we have 150,000 followers on Instagram, 300,000 Facebook likes for our brand. I have 12,000 followers. I'm always have to be checking out the social medias, because what I do for my job is sell online. I need to know where the eyeballs are online. And I love social media. I think it's so interesting. Every time a new one pops up, I get an account. I have a Parler account. You know what Parler is?
No.
It's actually
Never
like
even heard of it.
People say it's like a right wing. It's like a freedom of speech platform, because they say like Twitter like is so bans
Censored.
everything, and Facebook and censored or whatever. My personal favorite is Twitter. I just feel like Twitter is where everyone just like blurts shit out and just like it's and fleets. Fleets is the new thing on Twitter. At first,
yeah.
What do you think about fleets?
I think it's so dumb. Like I thought that they had kind of like passed on that whole thing, because it's been years, but apparently not. Now it's stupid. I think
My first reaction.
It's so
to
boring.
It was,
I'm so bored of it.
My first reaction was similar. My first reaction to it was, well, I'm used to Instagram. You do a story, and like, have you ever done an Instagram story? Like, you don't really post that much.
Like
and that's not a diss. That's not a diss.
No, I know. I would never take it as one, but I don't. I post stories way more than I post the other stuff. but it's always like one picture of my dog or my daughter or something. It's,
Oh yeah,
I'm
sure.
not.
You do. Like, so Instagram has so many features. You can do a poll. You can do emojis. You can do text. You can change up the text. You can do a timestamp. You can do so many things. So Fleets is just whatever you post and text. There's nothing else. And
Can
I
you
was like,
tweet?
you can post your tweet to Fleets, and
So
you can
here's
also post
something-
your Fleets to tweet to the Twitter timeline.
An interesting point that I heard was like, Twitter is very like in the moment. Like if you had an awesome tweet, say you had 1 million followers, you had an awesome tweet,
Yeah.
it can get buried easily. But if you put it on
Yes.
Fleets, then like you can it's basically pinning it for like everyone's homepage.
It's a way to redistribute it.
But it's so boring. Like I'm ready when Instagram stole the idea from Snapchat. I never had a Snapchat, so I was like, oh, this is new, this is exciting, awesome.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready for whatever's next. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like this
Yeah.
is just, I'm bored with it.
LinkedIn
I think
LinkedIn actually has like stories now. Like everyone has stories. I saw a pretty funny joke on Twitter. It was like Excel now has stories, and it like someone photoshopped like stories on top of Excel. But the reason I like it, I didn't like it at first. That was my same reaction. But like, I don't know. I post all the time. I'm trying to build a personal brand on like Instagram. I have 12,000 followers, like family. Like I stopped posting on Facebook like years ago. Like now you should go follow the Sean Lowery Show on Facebook, and I post there so I can like promote some stuff. My personal Facebook, never post on it. There's like, for me, it's like there's like a certain amount of pressure with each platform a little bit, and the best thing to do is not feel that pressure and be yourself and be authentic, of course. Still, like it exists a little bit, and Twitter is where I'll go, like, just kind of, I don't know, just whatever. And Fleets is like another level of that. Last night before bed, I posted a picture of me in bed on Fleets. Like, I wouldn't have done that on Instagram. And now, like, my first reaction was Fleets is kind of weird. But now I'm starting to like it a little bit. I feel like it gives me a place where I can post something on a story that I wouldn't post on Instagram that I can do on Twitter. And honestly, if I post something on my story, you can see who sees it. Usually a couple hundred people see it. Want to know how many people saw my Fleet yesterday?
6.
5 people. Yeah.
All right.
Like,
Good guess.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I kind of like that. I kind of like it.
Yeah.
Like that. Not as many people see it. Now, a lot of marketers would disagree with that, but I'm not even talking about from a marketing perspective.
You don't really use Twitter for marketing. That's like your
no,
outlet
not really.
for
Yeah,
yourself.
it's honestly like sometimes therapy, sometimes like also everything. My favorite thing about social media in general is that you can go back and look at shit in the future. It's like recording reality in real time a little bit. I think Trump uses it that way, which I like. I like that. So I don't really like do that much promotion on Twitter. I'll repost some stuff. I'll post the podcast sometimes. I just don't think that many people are seeing it. I'm not trying to necessarily gain followers on Twitter. And that's weird about Twitter. Twitter's my favorite though. That's my favorite social media.
So I thought you were gonna. Me too, and I thought that you would say that. So I have another answer. But what I'll say about Twitter, what I like about it is it's like certainly the messiest of all.
Yeah, it's so messy,
and I love it. I get so caught in the drama. All these random people. When you had that Notre Dame account,
Dude,
that would mix it up.
I missed that account, man. That was so
one of my
fun.
favorite things that I've ever done is like troll Notre Dame fans. And it's just so easy.
Yeah, so for the listeners, I had a Notre Dame Twitter account that had 60,000, 70,000 followers, and it was my first success as a business person. I started selling shirts to that audience, and that launched like my business now, which is crushing it. And you used to jump on there and start trolling with like the biggest Notre Dame fans, and like I would always have the leverage to be able to like, as the account, like
call this guy out.
Yeah. We had a lot of fun on there. Oh, dude, I that account like randomly got taken away from me over a summer. Like I used to be way more into it because I was selling from it, but I still ever since I had the account, I never didn't tweet about a touchdown for Saturday. When I was selling shirts, yes, I would tweet during the week more, but I always felt like I had a job every Saturday. At some point, it started to become a burden because I was like not selling shirts on there. I was working and building my company, and on Saturday, I got to go tweet every play. And then over the summer, the season ended. I tweeted every game, every touchdown. The season ended, and I kind of left it alone for a month or so, and I went back to it, and it was like vanished. And I still don't know what happened there. And if someone else told me this story, I would be like, dude, it was your fault. You lost it. You lost the password. I didn't lose the password. You can reset the password. I don't know. I don't know if it was Twitter's decision from the Notre Dame football account, whatever. It got taken away from me, and it's probably my fault for leaving it alone for a month. But that was great fun. And
It was so much fun. I used to get blocked and unblocked by this one person
what was your
like
name again?
4 times a week. Patty Smith.
Patty
I love you, Patty Smith. It was one of my favorite things to do. And I would just say like, LOL, Notre Dame stinks, or something very elementary to, and they would lose their mind, or Dane Chris for Heisman, LOL, stuff like that, and they would just lose it. That was a take that you had. That for anyone who's listening, Sean bet me that Dane Chris would win the Heisman Trophy at
Dane
a Hard
Chris.
Rock Cafe
So
in
I'm
Philadelphia.
actually have a life lesson from this moment. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. Notre Dame's my favorite team. It's the only sports team that I have an irrational love for. Now, all love for sports teams is irrational, by the way, but Dane Christ was up-and-coming starter for Notre Dame football, probably 2011, and me and you made a bet. I bet you probably $10, which was basically like $1 million at the time, that, maybe not $1 million, but like $100, that that Dane Christ was going to win the Heisman, and we bet on it. Obviously, Dane Christ didn't win the Heisman.
He didn't finish the season as the starter.
Yeah,
he was replaced mid-season.
So I learned at that point about personal bias, and like one of my greatest strengths as an entrepreneur and as a business person has been not having personal bias. Even have a girls' clothing company, and I've talked about this on the podcast many times. I had United Tees, which was cool, frat bro stuff, and I decided to start a girls' clothing company. Like, not having personal bias is a great strength in business and life, and sports always fucks with that. But I learned that lesson from that moment where I bet on Dane Chris. I believed he was going to win the Heisman.
Of course you did. I mean, that's the thing that I love so much about Notre Dame fans, is that you're all just as irrational and crazy. Like, I grew up, one of my best friends growing up.
I wouldn't say it's Notre Dame fans. I would say it's all sports
But Notre Dame in
fans of their
particular,
teams.
because they haven't been relevant. Like, so before the Eagles won the Super Bowl, Eagles fans knew about that, and they kind of like commiserated in misery. Misery loves company.
They
And
got beat
it
so many
wasn't
times
like
that
we're gonna win the Super Bowl every year.
They were self-protecting themselves, being like, we're going to lose, because their
Right, but why
emotions
don't Notre Dame fans do that? Notre Dame fans think of themselves as like a blue chip program, and this
They
year
are a
a
blue chip
bit of an
program.
anomaly. No, they're not. They're a Michigan.
Dude, I mean, they're
Michigan.
In the past 8 years, they've been in the Final Four. They've been in the national championship.
What happened in the Final Four?
The
national
they
championship.
lost.
We're embarrassed.
Yes,
That was the last year before the playoff.
But what? Okay, what's a blue chip program? How do you need to be in the top 10, 5 out of 8 years to be a blue chip program?
No, I think of blue chippers as like
they have the longest
Alabama.
winning streak. They have the win. Okay, how many blue chip college football programs are
3.
there? Okay, well, if there was 7, then Notre Dame would be one.
Arguable.
Okay,
Like, I think Notre Dame is like Penn State.
they're better than Penn State in the past 10 years, of course, based on results
maybe.
alone. They're actually really good.
But they
and
also
that is unbiased.
this year they are.
They are a very good team, and they have been. They've built up their line. Like last year, they were like 10-2. Like the year before,
And
they
then
were
what
like
happened?
11-3. They lost to Clemson by 37.
What was the last big game they won? And I don't want to hear Clemson this year.
Last week. Why
want,
wouldn't,
like, a
why
big
wouldn't that
game.
be a big game?
Because with like real stakes, like implications, like a
Okay,
big game.
fair. They lost big time to Clemson. They lost by 37, and then then Clemson beat Alabama by 38 in the championship.
Okay, so see what we're doing here, where we're like counting moral
Yes, they
victories. That's
lost.
not what a
They
blue chip
lost.
program does.
Yes,
But what was the last
okay.
big game they won?
I mean, it's hard for me not to say 8 days ago.
That's
Where
not-
they beat the
it's like
where
a
they beat the
regular
number.
season. Counting those, a blue chip program does not count a win against Clemson without their starting quarterback.
They beat LSU
a huge win.
in a bowl game 3 years ago to go to 10-3.
Okay. Right. So I think, if you want to go by the, the Geico Tortilla Bowl, then sure, that's a huge game. But blue chip programs, it's championship or bust. You want to win, a BCS Bowl.
Sure. That doesn't exist
my
anymore,
opinion.
and it hasn't existed for years now. But
But you know what I mean? Like an Orange Bowl or a Rose Bowl or a Fiesta Bowl.
yeah. Anyway,
keep
Twitter.
going.
Anyway, Twitter's my favorite social media.
Yeah. Twitter. I love Twitter too. I was
Oh, yeah,
going to say Reddit.
by the way, while we're ranting, like
Yeah, sorry.
TikTok, right?
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about TikTok?
I don't get it. I don't like it. The one thing I do like is like the cringy stuff. So I'll look at people whether it's on YouTube or on like Instagram, there's a page I follow where it's like cringy YouTube or cringy TikTok, where it's like the crazy
So you'll
people,
get
with,
TikTok
like, no teeth
content on another platform.
on a different platform. Because I tried the other stuff and I don't get it. I
mean,
feel
it's hard.
weird
It's
watching
hard
it.
for.
I feel
it's
very
hard,
uncomfortable.
It's hard for social media to take over your habits. of what you check, for sure. Now, honestly, Twitter is like news. Like if you're checking,
That's why
Twitter,
I like Twitter.
If you're checking Twitter, if there's a breaking story, if there's an I had an earthquake in my house the other night. It was a very minor earthquake. First place I go is Twitter. If my website is down, Shopify, and I'm having like a glitch on my site, the first thing I do is check Twitter, and I go to latest and I type in Shopify to see if 4 seconds ago other people are complaining. You literally can't search on Instagram. Twitter,
Right.
I guess that's another reason why Twitter's the best. First place to go to look for information. It's hard for your fingers to go to another one to get used to. And here's what my fingers do. My fingers go to Shopify. My fingers go to Twitter. My fingers go to Instagram. Those are where my fingers naturally go. My fingers go to those 3 apps the most, by far. TikTok is more I don't honestly, it's not really part of my routine that much anymore. But I check it once in a while because we're growing a following for United Monogram. So it is a little more of like and the hardest thing about a TikTok compared to a tweet as far as putting out content is it's work. You can't just tweet like, just feeling like fuck today, which I would never tweet, but like if you have a thought, you could just tweet it real quick. If you got a TikTok, you got to plan it out. You got to get the little thing, like the little thing that holds the phone. You got to put your phone down. You got to hit the timer. You got to time it up. It's hard to do TikToks.
It's all kids. Like I felt very uncomfortable because it's all like 15 to 17-year-old girls and boys just like dancing and winking at the camera. And I couldn't get over that. No matter how much I looked at other stuff, that's what came up on the feed.
There's a
so like
lot
the
of
algorithm.
There's a lot of pretty young girls on there that like they have their tits out. Like, I mean, I have my personal account and I have my United Monograms account. And the United Monograms account follows a lot of girls. And like, if I go in there and I'm like scrolling through, I'm like, yeah, I get what you're saying about that. I get what you're saying about that.
It's weird.
Like,
And it's just that like, it's so enjoyable, but it's so hard to watch like a 15-year-old kid with his shirt off, like winking at the camera and like doing this weird dance to a song.
In the defense of TikTok, like if you do go on it more, and your feed starts to get personalized more towards things you like.
I tried.
Of course.
I did for like a week, and it was hard to find the stuff that I like watching. It was impossible to find because like I like the videos posted by somebody with 6 followers, 7 followers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, if you
they're
go
just
on it more, it'll start
nonsense.
to tailor it to you more. But you
Just
got to
not for
you got to give it a little bit of respect, because we were just talking about how LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter now, Instagram, Snapchat, they all have the story feature. They all have the circles on top. Like, at least they like broke into the game with like a little bit of a different way to take up your screen. And from a marketing perspective, I respect that.
I respect it. I just don't like it. Not for me.
Yeah.
The other one that I
Fair.
like besides Twitter is like kind of a similar reason, but like Reddit, because of like it gets really messy, and also live threads for like games or shows, whatever.
I don't know shit
But
about
Twitter,
Reddit.
I mean, Twitter's king. I went away from Twitter for like years, and then recently, within the past couple of years, came back. And it's a good source for news.
It's
I'm surprised
it's withstood the test of time.
It's very like liberal though, so I'm surprised a little bit. Like I know I have known that you have always loved Twitter, but like the user base is way, or at least maybe it's just my time.
No, it is. I mean, that's the thing. That's the thing they say to like
more.
Democrat politicians. They say
Right.
retweets are not votes, like stuff like that.
Right.
Like, yes, it's definitely very liberal race, but I like it. And yeah, respect to TikTok.
It's funny that neither of us mentioned Facebook, which was the OG. I mean, MySpace, whatever. But
Dude,
Facebook was the first one to nail it. And then it just fell off.
I spent $9,000 with Facebook yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm on
Sure,
Facebook
but-
every day, but not as a user. I'm on, and the thing is, they own Instagram. But it's just, Facebook's probably the one I'm actually on the most as far as being an advertiser on it. But that means that other people are on it.
Of course.
And you want to know the other one that I mentioned my fingers? I go to the Shopify app. I go to Twitter. I go to Instagram. The other one that I'd probably go to more than any of those is YouTube. Is
Yeah,
that
me
social
too.
media? Like, do you have the YouTube app?
Yeah. Do I have the YouTube app?
I mean, do you
like a premium?
Yeah. Do you go on
Yes.
that YouTube app a lot?
So I would say if you looked at my usage, it's probably like over 50% of my usage. It's either
me too.
whether I'm watching it. Do you have the shortcut where you can do picture in picture?
Yeah, that's premium. And by the way, the new iPhone update has that with like a bunch of apps, which is awesome.
Yeah, but not with YouTube. So if you can still play it, but the video disappears. So I had to do this.
Right,
I had to like
right.
create a shortcut
Interesting.
that embeds it, so that I can like use Twitter, but also have the small rectangle of a YouTube video playing up
Interesting.
there. But I use
Interesting.
YouTube like all the time.
I fucking love YouTube. So
Yeah,
yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, like and
we love
subscribe
you.
and follow. I can't really say that yet because I feel like no one does that. If you're watching a YouTube video and someone says like subscribe, do you do it?
Smash that button.
Do you do it?
No, but there's been times where somebody like I'm watching a video and I love the content and they're like, I'd really, if you like what you see and you want to see more, I'd really appreciate if you hit the subscribe button. And in that case, like probably twice I've
will?
done that. But I'm
Okay.
pretty selective with it. I'm pretty selective with
Do you
my
follow this?
subscribers.
Do you subscribe to this podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
I
baby.
did from like day one, but it was at that point it was like I'm going to support my friend. Now it's like can't miss stuff.
Hell
So
yeah. All right, yeah. Like this is a podcast. We went off the cuff a little there, but I love it. All right, Brandon. What is the fifth and final one?
Question 5. What's the craziest thing that if it was never there, we think it's insane?
So the way that I took this, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but the way I took it was like, what is a socially acceptable custom or tradition or habit
I took it the same
everyone
way.
does that if you weren't aware of it, if you're an alien visiting the planet, you'd be like, what the hell is going on?
Well, I feel like you
So
have to be. I feel like I get what you're saying, but to phrase it, what is a social norm that if it never existed, we would think it's insane? Because aliens don't
seems
understand
out of-
humans to begin with. So,
well, you don't know that. They've been studying us for thousands of years. But so the example that I thought of yesterday, right when you asked, was like singing happy birthday, or like just like a tradition, like that's the only time that you can think that like everyone in the room stops what they're doing, turns off the lights, lights these things on fire on top of a cake, brings it in front of you, and everyone sings the same song directed to you and serenades you. Like if you didn't know what was going on and you were just in this room and the lights, it got dark and everyone started singing, you'd be like, what the hell is going on? And it's funny because like every culture does it. You know what I mean? It's not just an
Yeah.
American thing.
is that true? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if everyone does, but I know like in
I mean,
part of
people
my
sing-
family's
people-
Polish, Icelandic.
People singing in unison is weird.
Mm-hmm. Always.
So, happy birthday! Everyone just sings in unison, and everyone accepts it.
And it just seems if you didn't know what's going on, you'd be so confused.
Yeah.
Another one. So here's a big one.
Okay.
And I've thought this for a while is the Pledge of Allegiance. Think about what the kids are demanded to do every day. You stand up, put your hand over your heart, and you say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. That is such a so like final. It's so intense, such an intense thing. And you hear like 30 little kids' voices all in unison singing it. It's like really creepy, but it's just such an intense thing. Like these kids don't know what they're doing. If somebody asked me right now to pledge allegiance to anything, I'd be like, what? That's so creepy. But we just did it without even thinking about it every day.
That's a good one. And in a political angle, like center left or center right, like I think it's probably might be good to pledge allegiance to the country, like love your country, but also, dude, yeah, it's a really good one.
It's great
That's
to love
weird.
your country. Nobody's saying you have to love your country. You're saying I pledge allegiance to the flag
In the recitement of it, like everyone doing it. Yeah, that's
and
a good
to
one.
the republic for which it stands.
Yeah.
One nation. Crazy. It's
Under God,
it's like a
indivisible,
Yeah.
liberty and justice for all.
It's like a battle speech.
It's actually very similar to your first one. It's people talking in unison.
But this, like the content here is
Right, it's different context.
crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
All
So
right.
those are two.
Those are
Also,
two.
real quick, a thumbs up. Like if you didn't know what was going on, someone just looked at you was like, you think would you know what's going on? You give them another finger. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good. All right. I thought of a couple, but I have a final one. I'm just gonna name the few that I had. I thought about this a lot, and actually didn't think about mine, a good one until the end. These were the ones I was filtering through: tattoos, musicals, trick or treating, sushi, tipping. Tipping is a super weird one, right?
Yeah, I thought about that one too.
We paid for you. Here's more money. It's super.
Even people from other countries don't get that. And
Yeah, they don't, I mean, I guess when we get to pay waiters less, you used to be a waiter. I remember you said you always tip a lot because you used to be a waiter. You get what it feels like. Like, okay, at my wedding, like that we had the caterers and stuff like that, and the DJ, and like, okay, I'll pay whatever. Like, I didn't know who to tip, and like, if you tip someone you're not supposed to tip, is it like offensive? Like, tips are weird. Like, tell me how much you want to pay, I'll pay you. Like, if it's a professional service, tips just add a bunch of confusion to it.
Yeah.
If no one ever told me I had to tip at the haircut, I wouldn't tip at the haircut. You pay for
Right.
like, I don't tip at buying a pair of shoes, but I do tip at a haircut. What's the difference?
Right.
Tipping's a weird one. And
I like the idea of tipping really quick. Let me just
Yeah.
add this. I like the idea. Like, I would be okay with people saying like, so I just got a Peloton bike delivered this week, and I was like, delivery people. Like, I never know. Like a service person, do I tip these
Right.
people? And I'm happy to do it, but I don't want to be like, offensive.
Everyone knows you tip the pizza guy.
Of course. But like the Peloton, they have to like set it up, and they have to do work. So I wish
Right.
that it could have said like, upon delivery, a mandatory cash tip of $50.
That would be
'Cause
very helpful.
I like the like process of handing this guy cash, but like, thank you for your help, man. Like that.
It
we connect
also,
over that.
if
That's great.
someone's doing stuff at your house, it also gives you that little leg room where like, please do a good job, and I'll give you money at the
Right.
end because like you're in my house. Like, I
did tip him, by the way, but
I like that. Honestly, if I ever don't know whether I should tip or not, I actually don't, because I don't know. I feel like maybe you're a little nicer than me in some ways, and I feel weirder doing something nice than I do that I'm not sure about than I do like just walking away. I don't know.
Mhm.
I just wish I would know. They would just tell me. That's a good point. Tipping,
Mhm.
if it says tips are here. Anyway, that wasn't my one. Here's my good one. This is weird. That now being attracted to tits. Now, people
Again.
argue that's biological. I don't know, man.
sure.
I'm not so sure
For
about
sure.
that. So I heard someone talk about this before. I think it might have been Joe Rogan. And someone said, Miley Cyrus wants to like free the nipple, all that stuff. And the guy's like, all right, fine. Everyone take your shirts off. Fine. I'm going to get a boner. Dude, imagine if girls at the beach or at the pool always had their shirts off. I think we would be desensitized to it, because imagine all the
sure.
gross tits
Absolutely.
out there. If every single girl had their shirt off all the
It just
time,
wouldn't be. Yeah.
it wouldn't be special. And I think I love tits. Like, okay.
Your
I
like
do.
top 3 favorite things.
I love it so much. I love them so much.
Mhm.
I think it might be the same reason why you like drinking alcohol when you're under 21.
It's like taboo.
I still like drinking
Forbidden.
alcohol now. Like, people argue that it's biological, and I don't know whether that's true or not. Maybe it is. Obviously, being attracted to women, if you're straight, is a biological thing. It has to do with reproduction and evolution. But
Right.
the tit element of
You
it,
wanting to have, you want you find people attractive that you want to have your baby, and like that's kind of what it comes down to from a biological level. Like that's why you're attracted to somebody, and maybe
Right.
like a nice set of boobs is like, oh, you'll give my child
milk.
better milk or something. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think what you're saying makes sense. Where like it's forbidden, it's covered up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the
And,
tribes that
they
don't
show,
wear.
they show like a little of them, and it's like, oh.
Right.
But if my whole life growing up, everyone, guys and girls at the pool, took their shirts off and wore bathing suits, I don't think I would have the attraction to it.
Mhm.
I really don't. I don't know, but I think it's weird that guys are attracted to tits.
Yeah.
As someone who is.
So in Iceland, they don't like in pools and hot tubs a lot of times. I mean, less so now, but growing up as a kid, whenever my family's Icelandic, my mom was born and raised there, but the women in like pools and stuff don't wear tops, but they never, guys are still into it. So who knows?
All right. I'm moving to Iceland. Like, that's like, no, I'm not. Like, I don't know. Like, it's probably gross. All right. That's mine now. That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a great one.
I thought of it on my own too.
How else? Did Brandon give it to you?
No, I really did. Like the other ones, I was thinking about this for a little bit, and I Googled a few things, and there was a lot of the same stuff.
How did you Google it? Because it's kind of
I
difficult thing to-
Googled social norms that are weird,
Mhm.
and like
There was-
that gave me some ideas for mine. But anyway, all right, Brandon's big bites.
Brandon's big bites.
Brandon, what's up, dude? How you doing?
Doing all right.
All right,
What up, Brandon?
what's your big bites?
Question 1. If you were the Joker or an evil villain, what would be your evil master plan or the first evil thing you do?
I would cut off
First
everyone's
thing that comes to mind.
cut off everyone's internet.
That would suck.
Right? It's evil.
Yeah. I would rob a bank for sure.
It's so hard.
But he said mastermind. So I would have this awesome, really complicated plan. Do you know what I mean? I don't have that. I'm not a mastermind right now, but I would have like a super complicated genius plan to rob a bank and then set the money on fire and then do it again. Just keep doing it.
So you do exactly what the Joker did.
Yeah. I mean, he said the Joker. If I was the Joker, I don't know that I'd stray from that path a whole lot. The internet thing, I guess the Joker is probably not super into internet. I would I think the Joker did this too, but I would blow up bridges and stuff, so that you can't get out of cities. He did that too, didn't he?
Yo, I would get a boat and give each person a device to blow up the other boat, and one boat would be prisoners, and one boat would be regular people. It would be epic. By the way, did you see the Joker with the newest Joker with Joaquin Phoenix?
No.
I hated it. It was like a critically acclaimed movie.
Mm-hmm.
He was like a psycho. He was He was like no. Okay. He was mentally ill.
Yeah, right.
The thing I like about the Joker is he's smart and he has these crazy plans. This guy was just like a pillhead who lived in a shitty apartment. And he didn't have in the entire movie. He didn't do one smart thing that was like, ooh, that was brilliant. He just shot
wrote
Robert
and directed
De Niro.
it.
No.
So
Dave Chappelle.
This is gonna be no. I would, if we were on a podcast, I would make this a guessing game. Todd Phillips, who did The Hangover and Old School.
Oh, really?
It's such a departure. Yeah, I was always thrown off with it. I love
Old School.
Joaquin Phoenix, but I did not see it.
Dude, it's not that good.
I would also, here's one thing I would do. I would swap net worths for super rich people and super poor people. So one day, a billionaire wakes up and they have $200 in their account. I'd watch the poor person that came into money.
I would put a pin. I would put a pin on everyone's chair, so when they sit down, they go, "Whoa!"
It's not bad. It's diabolical.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
Describe a world where everyone has $1 million. The dollar is still the same value as today, but how would society function in your eyes?
It would take 4 minutes for the smart people to get more of it.
Get the rest of everyone.
Yeah,
right. The smart people would have the other
They'd be like, "Oh, I'm selling this product for this much," and then they would buy it from the supplier for less, and they would make a profit. And the people who are smarter would have more money, and the people who weren't as smart would have less money, and it would be eventually even back out. You're saying not everyone is handed $1 million, but everyone has $1 million. It would take 2 years for Jeff Bezos to have just as much money. Maybe not 2 years, but it would it would all even out, or it would all cut back to normal.
Revert for the most part. I mean, it would give you more of an excuse to be okay with that. For people that are not okay with the amount of poverty that we have. If everyone's had $1 million and then a year later they didn't, it's all right, well, we tried, man. What else are we gonna do here?
I actually would like that. Right? They that's so true. The homeless bum would have $1 million, and what would the homeless bum do with $1 million? You think?
Maybe invest and buy a house and clean themselves up. Dollar Shave Club.
Buy a house.
Buy
a house. Then you have to maintain the house, and you have to pay a water bill, and then you don't pay the bill because you're not really paying attention, and because you're doing heroin and stuff, and then the bills pile up.
Some people would throw $1 million parties. You know what I mean? And just blow it all But then, like I said, then you don't have. There's no excuse.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I like it because it would show that our system is, or our society is how it is, because
there's no argument.
Yeah, and it doesn't relate back to historical 10,000 years ago, or hundreds of years ago. Your family was poor. Okay, that was hundreds of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I get, we all know the story of America, slavery. I'm sure there's some things there, but in today's day and age, faster than ever, you can become rich. And there's an education gap, all that, but there's also YouTube where you can learn anything you want for free. But yeah, and I'd love to see the experiment be done, because that's what I think would happen. You seem to agree. And it probably would, but who knows?
I think largely it would. I mean, obviously there would be a lot more like of that middle ground. Some people would make a little bit of money, some people would lose a little bit of money, but there would still be the opposite ends of the spectrum. A lot of people would blow it all and be broke, and a lot of people would accumulate wealth and be super, super rich. But I do think there would be more people who are like in that upper middle class or even middle class, lower middle class that would probably figure it out, you know, because you have more opportunity. Having $1 million opens more doors. Right now, if there's 100 super poor people, none of them really have. I mean, it's a lot harder for them to make something of themselves than it would be if they had $1 million. You'd have to think at least 10% of them would figure something out.
Yeah, I don't know, but also I think the other thing people would learn is that. And tell me what you think about this. $1 million ain't that much.
Isn't what it was. Yeah, dude. You know what I think? Why I think that is just always going to be ingrained in our heads. Who wants to be a millionaire? I guess that was a phenomenon. Seriously, that was a cultural phenomenon. And that was at that point like $1 million. And now $1 million, like you said,
Yeah,
what it used to be.
like Brandon asked the question, if you had $1 million, it should be like you get $100 million, but like
right. Even like 10.
Yeah. I always wondered like if my perception of money is getting a little flawed as I'm becoming richer. But,
yeah,
like,
maybe.
I mean, that happens, I guess. Like Shelby fucking bought. I kind of lost her wallet. I'm sure it's going to show up. And she rebought it. And it was this little fucking wallet. And Shelby's great with money. She's not a $748 fucking Gucci dollar wallet. I was so pissed at her. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this is not.
I think a wallet is the worst investment of all time.
Dude,
it's just so counterproductive.
I have this new
You're
thing
spending
now.
all your money on. Yeah.
You know how like you naturally keys, wallet, cell phone. I've taken wallet out of my my thing. I've lost my same wallet for a combined year, and it keeps coming back to me. I lost it for 3 months, and it came back to me. Some lady DM me on Facebook, and I don't check my personal Facebook, and I checked it. I lost it in LA before I went to Bora Bora a couple of years ago. Figured it was gone, came back to me. It keeps coming back to me because like, and I just don't fucking need it. Apple Pay, you can pay for anything. I haven't touched $1 cash except for Hoyt gave me $2 bill for my wedding. That's on my fridge. I haven't months. I haven't touched $1 bill. Like, you don't really need a wallet except for ID. And as I'm becoming older, I get carded a little.
And you're great with that. I mean, I've seen you in person, I think twice in the last year, and I've been with you when you lost your ID twice in the past year.
I think
Both
subconsciously, I accept the fact that I don't need my wallet, and like I'm starting.
So you leave it in Ubers.
I just not part of my. I haven't lost my cell phone. I haven't
What
lost
about
my
keys?
AirPods.
Your car doesn't have a key, right?
Dude, me and Shelby haven't locked any house that we've lived in for years, and car keys we used to just.
No, I mean car key.
Car key. Well, the Tesla doesn't have a car key. The car.
That's what I was saying. So you could just leave your house. You leave your house with just your phone.
Yeah, and even when we had car keys, we just kept the car keys in the car.
Right, and your car got stolen.
It did get stolen. All right, Brandon saying wrap it up. All right, bro. Do you think this was good?
Yeah. Do you want to do these videos really quick, see how that goes, or no?
After we say bye. All right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to the podcast. We're gonna keep building on this.
Yep.
8 more episodes to go, and yeah, we talked about a lot of good stuff today. It's fun because we're gonna have to listen back and see what we're listening to, but whew, that's the fun of podcasting.
Off the rails a bit, but that's exactly.
All right,
I had fun.
And if we find out that it wasn't that good, we'll regroup and we'll gather together for the next one. So thanks everyone for listening. Episode 71 of the Sean Lowery Show. It's been a pleasure, and honestly, if you're listening, we appreciate and love you very much.
Adios.
Bye. Have you ever heard a better podcast in your entire life? Take that, Joe Rogan. Best podcast you've ever heard. Get more podcasts right here and subscribe to the show too while you're at it. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate you. Honestly, I love you.